Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to say a few words in thanks to the members of this body for the many prayers and calls that I received last week after my dad had a bad accident, and he fell down and about 10 feet, broke his pelvis in 3 places. And many of you know that I farm with my dad, my folks, my wife, and how difficult it is right now for us. And so he's in the hospital for the next 4 weeks at least, and then long recovery after that. And so I appreciate many of your calls and your support during this time. Some of you know that last fall in October, my mother had a bad accident too, and ended up in the hospital for 4 weeks after hitting her head on the farm. And of course, last summer in July on the 7th, my brother was killed in a car accident, leaving behind his 8 kids and his wife. And it goes to show all of us how fragile and precious life is and how fleeting it can be. I came upon the scene of the accident, my brother, and saw his dead body and what had happened to it. And the reality of death is something that we all face and makes life so precious every day. And we, just went through Easter season, and we think about the trauma of Christ and what he went through and the miracle of the resurrection. And that gives me the hope that I'll be seeing my brother again. When we see a body that's hurt, when we see a body injured, and it causes us to flinch, it causes a real visceral reaction within us. And I went to the movies last week and saw something that caused the same thing to me. I watched a movie where I watched a little baby torn apart, limb by limb. The leg, the other leg, the arms. It's an image that I'll never forget. It's unconscionable. The movie destroys any pretense of abortion being anything less than unconscionable, painful destruction of a fragile and living life. The Bible tells us, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I will also reject you. You shall be no priest to me. Seeing you have forgotten the law of your God, I'll forget your own children." And so I say another Bible verse, "Come now, let us reason together." That movie is the story of Abby Johnson, and what she saw that day shocked her. It shook the very foundations that she had built to make sense of her world, showed them that they were just sand, and they crumbled around her. And it did the same to me, even though I'm already convinced that abortion was wrong. It shook that long-held belief and the complacency that I've had about it. It shook it because of the brutal reality of seeing those things and recognizing, after what I've been through in the last year, the reality of death and trauma, how fragile life is and how precious it is. And it doesn't just stop with the fact that this woman oversaw 22,000 deaths in her 8 years there, but the trauma that it affects on the persons, the families of those babies. Can God be merciful to us and use this message of truth? Can he hold this up and give us one last chance to repent, to keep our consciences alive? How can we harden our hearts in the face of this truth? Just like the injustices that happen, whether it's Flint or other people, we passionately advocate for them. But are we passionate about this great injustice and sin that's plaguing our culture and our world? when we've changed the conversation from being safe and rare to being a noble good, I fear for the future. Thank you, Mr. President.